Wonderful after-death contact reunions. Deceased Dr. Elizabeth Targ communicates 35 times. Russel Targ is a well-known psychic researcher and physicist. His daughter, Elizabeth Targ, pictured a brilliant doctor and psychic researcher, died from a brain tumor at the age of 42. After she died, her bonded co-researcher Dr. Jane Katra received more than 35 surprising and unexpected communications from her. They started a few hours after she died, when she appeared to Jane, at least 10 miles away from the house where her body lay. In the week that followed, lights flashed while she was being discussed. A woman wrote down nonsense syllables dictated from Elizabeth in a dream visit that turned out to be a coherent message in Russian, a language that Elizabeth spoke well. Dr. Katra concludes, "I finally overcame my indoctrination into the super psi explanation for these many remarkable occurrences." She will be presenting a talk at the Society for Scientific Exploration 30th Annual Meeting. Abstract of proposed talk, After-Death Communications Involving Two Parapsychologists and Healers. Ongoing work. Elizabeth Targ, MD, and Jane Katra, PhD. Unexpected and spontaneous communications from deceased loved ones have been sensed by people throughout history, in a variety of cultures. Research on the phenomenon of after-death communications, ADC, started in the 1880s, in England, when a group of intellectuals and scientists formed the Society for Psychical Research and conducted a 3-year study they titled Spontaneous Hallucinations of the Sane. 13% of the 17,000 people surveyed in that study reported that at some time, while they were awake, they had had a vivid impression of seeing or being touched by a living being, or of hearing a voice, which impression was not due to any external physical cause. Many of the people reported in this 1894 census of hallucinations that their ostensible psychic communications had occurred near the time of the communicating person's death, so an additional analysis of death coincidences was done, thus initiating the field of life after death research. The evidence compiled over the past century for the survival of an intelligent component of human existence after bodily death comes from a wide range of studies involving trance, mental and physical mediumship, hauntings, and out-of-body experiences, anomalous cases of creativity and xenoglossy, dream visitations, apparitions, reincarnation, and possession studies, near-death experiences, and most recently, instrumental trance communication studies. In the early 1990s, Elizabeth Targ's co-researcher, Dr. Jane Katra, was involved in a spiritual healing of physicist and psychic researcher Russel Targ, and I subsequently moved to Palo Alto, California, to work with him. Together we carried out a number of successful remote viewing studies, and we also published papers and 2 books on non-local consciousness, psychic abilities, physics, and healing. Russel Targ's daughter Elizabeth Targ was a psychiatrist at the time. She was also a highly intelligent and gifted psychic, an accomplished parapsychological researcher, a certified Russian translator, and a thorough skeptic regarding spiritual healing. She decided to conduct studies in distant healing with men with HIV in San Francisco using very experienced healers of a variety of modalities from around the U.S. She intended to show that distant healing was a figment of my imagination. Her data indicated otherwise, and when she repeated her work with a more robust study that showed clear differences between the men receiving healing and the control group, she changed her mind about the power of non-local healing and decided that she also wanted to be a spiritual healer. Sadly, that was not to be. At least, not in the way that we all had hoped. In 2002, Elizabeth was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor called glioblastoma. 3.5 short months later she died while her father Russel Targ, her husband Mark Cummings, and some friends were gathered around her bed. Since then I have been the recipient of, or witness to, over 35 surprising and spontaneous communications from her. They started a few hours after she left her body, when she visited her father and me in our bedroom in her childhood home, at least 10 miles away from the house where her body lay when she passed. In the week that followed, we experienced events in which lights flashed while she was being discussed. A woman wrote down nonsense syllables dictated from Elizabeth in a dream visitation that turned out to be a coherent message in Russian. An inexplicable recording of my discussing Elizabeth's illness occurred on her father's cell phone message recorder. A woman reported to me that Elizabeth appeared to her in a dream visitation, and saved her life. A relevant message from a sender with the sole email sender address of Elizabeth, spelled with an S, appeared on my laptop computer. A nursing professor at Duke University, in the company of myself and 2 other doctors, saw her apparition, and received explicit messages from her for me, and for Dr. Marilyn Schlett, now director of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, a medium I had never met who was seated in front of me at a lecture in Durham, North Carolina, sensed her presence, and vocalized messages from her for over an hour. A variety of people, one in Norway, received messages from her predicting things she would do. That then happened days or weeks later in the USA, and a sick woman in Switzerland experienced Elizabeth's presence, and watched a book push itself outward from its position and fall off a shelf, while the woman was receiving a phone healing from me, while at the same time I was hearing Elizabeth's voice in my ear in Oregon, dictating a specific and relevant message for me to give to the young woman. That woman subsequently died 2 days later after emailing to me that Elizabeth had taken away her pain and fear of dying, and was standing beside her bed, giving her comfort. I will describe some of the most compelling of these after-death communications from Elizabeth Targs, and tell how I finally overcame my indoctrination into the super psi explanation for these many remarkable occurrences. I finally decided to believe in Elizabeth's afterlife existence, and to believe that she had, indeed, successfully initiated many contacts with me, and others, after vacating her physical body. I am happy to report to you that Elizabeth Targs has indeed become a spiritual healer. By Elizabeth's co-researcher Dr. Jane Katra.